Hey, Chris, welcome back to another week of the Unnamed Cyber Talk. This is the short edition. It's just you and me this week. The other guys are MIA. I know we reached out, didn't find them.
Yeah.
And hopefully your microphones are working today compared to when we tried to do some stuff the other day and go from there.
Just so everybody understands, when you're trying to shoot anything and they decide that the landscapers for your lease space are going to show up and hedge trim right outside your door, having microphones cancellation is a very good thing, and I did not have it on. And that side, boy, that went sideways real quick apparently. So, whoops.
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard to hear. You could pick it out, but okay,
Yeah.
it's something to think about when you're scheduling webinars and doing that. So guys, if you've done a webinar, if you're trying to do video from home, what's happened on your calls. I've got three beagles here, and if somebody comes and rings the front doorbell, well, there we go. Noise canceling isn't going to kill that.
That's having that for like 20 seconds is a lot better than 20 minutes of some dude hedge trimming outside and just buzzing in the microphone, and like I can't hear it because I can hear it, but like it's just funny. It's just like one of those challenges that when you do this stuff, it's just something you have to deal with, I guess. But realistically, we had some interesting news starting last week. I know we talked about CDK a lot, but they were up on 4th of July as far as we know.
Yeah, I was following some of that, and then I think a lot of dealers came up on the day before, on the 3rd, and I saw some service managers posting, yeah, they're making us come in on the 4th to get the paperwork going.
Yeah, I don't know what the turnaround is going to be on that. I heard that the economic impact could be about $1 billion.
Billion,
So
with a B.
a billion, yeah, with a B, yeah. So a 9-figure issue for dealers around the United States. It's terrifying, and they got up a lot quicker than you thought. Like they were down for about 2 weeks.
Yeah,
For the ones that they brought up earlier, it was a little bit less than 2 weeks, but they were bringing up some of the bigger ones first, I think, just to kind of get them going, make sure that they were working, so they can bring the smaller dealers on later. So that was interesting. Again, supply chain attack. We've talked about this. It's really dangerous. Think about the software in your business that you use to run every day. And if you're using one piece of software to run your entire business, maybe time to think about that. And is there something else you can add that can help you, or can you break it up into maybe like 2 different products so that you don't have this one single choke point in your business? So
well, yeah,
we
people
dealt with this a lot.
like that one throat to choke if something's going on, but that could be a problem. And having a backup process in place.
Yeah, and that's the key too. Downtime process, right? Like I used to do I worked in some stuff with like medical, right? They always had downtime processes. Like they always had, hey, if RMR is not available or the machines aren't working or whatever, we have downtime processes where we can do that. I think a lot of businesses have kind of skipped on those recently.
So when I was at Toys R Us, we actually had a distributed POS system that was homegrown, built, and running in the stores, and we actually used to do all online credit checks for all transactions. But if it went down, they just raised the floor limits, and they kept selling. They had a process. Now,
hope that those credit cards go through later.
What's that?
Hope they go through.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because I think at that point in time, since Toys was validating every single credit card transaction, if they had to raise the floor limits, it was still covered as part of their agreements from a fraud perspective.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
And it's also and also all the transactions in those at that time was all card present transactions anyway.
Yeah, now the world of which.
Yeah, Toys R Us. That's a long time ago.
I used to love Jeffrey, that stupid magazine, or the catalog at Christmas time, right, when you were a kid.
Oh, those I got pictures of Sean and Kirsten sitting on Jeffrey's lap in the office.
Oh man! Like the closest one for me, like growing up, and this is probably nobody cares about this, but it was like an hour away.
It was a destination.
Yeah, it was a destination, dude. So yeah, so like, because I grew up, obviously in a pretty rural area, so it was just like everything was 30 minutes at least, and then that specifically was about an hour. So
that's pretty funny. I think when I left, we peaked at it was over 800 or 900 stores that we were supporting.
And then all just like private equity got involved, and poof.
That's a whole other topic. Anyway, what's going on in the
we love private equity. Don't get me wrong. Oh man, Apple, man. Be careful if you don't have MFA turned on your Apple devices, man. Please do, because there's a smishing attack, and basically a smishing attack is text-based phishing. You'll get a text message. It'll say, "Hey, you should sign into your iCloud account." It's going to go to a website. It's going to show you what looks to be the Apple ID login, and guess what? It's not. It's stealing your information, stealing your username and password, and you can get an account takeover real quick if you don't have two-factor on. And Apple's two-factor is unique, and if people don't know this, you can turn on two-device authentication. So like when you log in, one of your devices or the other device that you're using, you can use to authenticate another device on your account. So it's an interesting way of doing it. And I don't know how many people turn it on. You should turn it on, but like if you only have one Apple device, that's kind of not the way to do it. But if you have two, like so if you have like an iPad and iPhone, or a Mac and iPad, iPhone, whatever, you can turn it on and authenticate it through a device. Yeah. But these are dangerous attacks. They can attack pretty much anything. So if you get a text message that's saying, "Hey, log in," just be aware that most reputable places are not going to text you to say, "Hey, you should log in to check your account." Now, you may get a text message for a fraud alert, so I just blew that one up. But a lot of times you want to log into the app, because a lot of the apps on your phone, like American Express or like banking apps and stuff like that for fraud, they'll have the alerts inside the apps. So absolutely. I don't trust text messages for literally anything. I mean, Bob sends me messages, and if it's not blue, I wouldn't trust it. Matt sends me ones and they're green. I'm like, dude, I don't know if I should trust this. Is this really Matt? So
for those that don't know, the difference between blue and green is how text messages show up on an iPhone. If it's iPhone to iPhone or Android to iPhone, and Android is being, with all the iPhones out there, Androids are being treated as second-class citizens. And I think there's actually something happening in that space right now too.
Yeah, RCS is coming. So RCS is it's kind of like hybrid iMessage. First of all, the picture and video quality between Apple and Android will be fixed during that, which would be cool, because like you don't get the grainy photos and stuff. But I don't know if they're going to turn blue. I doubt they use I doubt they use blue for that, because blue I think is always going to be iMessage.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, I wonder. We need to figure that out. Like, are the colors going to be green? It's going to be an iOS 18 that comes out this fall, so in a couple months. I know it's in beta, but I'm not installing beta on my phone. Turns out when you have a business, your phone probably shouldn't run beta OSs. It's probably not the move.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Probably not a good idea. So, I did have somebody say, "Oh, I want to test out all the new stuff right away, so we're going to turn this on the office machines." And I was like, "No, please don't."
Oh man. Oh, Apple's going to turn on RCS over Wi-Fi too, so you don't even have to have a cell signal to do it. So if you can message just over Wi-Fi, like iMessage can work, you can do the same thing with RCS. That's pretty cool.
So it'll work on airplanes.
Yeah. Unless the person that you're texting apparently doesn't have RCS, then it'll just fall back to SMS or MMS. So that'd be pretty cool. We'll see if it's still green. I don't know. I'm sure somebody out there knows the answer. I'll still make fun of Matt though. It's more fun that way. But that's big news. There's a Microsoft update that came out too on Tuesday. So if you don't patch, highly recommend patching. The exploit was actually being used for a year in the wild before Microsoft was able to patch it.
Now, did they know about it for a year, or?
That would be a good question.
So,
I'll pull it up.
Along the same note, I saw we always get these questions about what's the best antivirus? What should I be running? And I actually saw an interesting Gartner report yesterday that in the upper right-hand corner of the chart, believe it or not, Microsoft was at the top above everybody else for their AV protection. It's something that we hadn't seen in the past.
Are they talking Defender? Or are they talking Defender for Endpoint? It's part of the Microsoft
Defender for Endpoint
suite. Okay, so they're talking about something you have to pay for still. So, to give you guys a little bit of explanation, Defender comes with Microsoft Defender as an antivirus comes with Windows 11, Windows 10. Defender for Endpoint is part of the Microsoft 365 suite. So if you buy Business Premium or higher, you get access to it, and it actually adds more advanced capabilities to the Defender built into your computer. So it actually enhances it by just signing into your computer with your work account. So your work account being your 365.
That's interesting you say that, Chris, because on the call that was talked about, and Microsoft was claiming that the protection is the same, but it's the management function that the Defender for Endpoint is enhanced on. So
they added EDR into Microsoft Defender for Endpoint and vulnerability scanning, so that's not accurate. The antivirus protection might be the same, but there are EDR capabilities, so endpoint detection response capabilities that are added to the antivirus.
Got it.
Yeah. So yes, okay. From a pure antivirus standpoint, sure, it's the same. From a functionality standpoint, you could do a lot more to block it.
And the people I was talking to yesterday had an EDR. We're using a separate EDR solution that was managing the endpoint.
Yeah, which is kind of common. So, like, if you're setting this up, if you're out there and you're kind of pseudo-technical, you can run Microsoft Defender with almost any endpoint detection response software. And it's actually a good idea because, like I said, one of the things you get with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint when you pay for it, it's included with Microsoft Business Premium, 365 Business Premium or higher, but you gain like vulnerability scanning, you gain a lot of other functions that are pretty cool, and you don't have to turn that EDR function on in the product. You can actually turn it off. It also brings out web filtering, like basic web filtering too. A lot of people don't know that. You can turn on basic web filtering as well. So it's a pretty cool extension. And yeah, to that point, you know what? It's included. So let's see how long it takes for Microsoft to get hit with antitrust for that too.
Yeah, right. So but this isn't a security issue thing, but there's so much stuff in 365 that people don't know and don't take advantage of. That I actually did do a presentation last year around how to save money with your 365 subscription by canceling all this other stuff. So yeah.
You're just helping the government build their antitrust case. What's wrong with you?
There you go.
That's for anybody out there. If you're wondering why Microsoft suddenly is selling Office 365 or Microsoft 365 without Teams, there's a reason for that. Europe did not like that very much. Slack sued, and they kind of just did it worldwide. They dropped the price and they give you the option to keep Teams in there if you want, but they have a version that sells without Teams. You can add Teams back in as an add-in.
Well, people are also getting hit right now with that because when COVID came out, they made Teams free and had these exploratory licenses that went away like 2 months ago. I just found that on another client. So they're like, I can't log into Teams anymore. It says you're not authorized, and I'm like, what are you talking about? You've had these licenses forever. And when I did the work, it turned this was a client that was licensed just for Microsoft apps.
Yep.
And because they run G Suite, don't get me started there. But I had to go move them up to Business Basic to get them back into Teams.
Well, and then people could sign up for that stuff without being the global admin. That was the weird part. Like the exploratory license, they could just like go click on it. It's like, come on, really? In antitrust news,
okay, might
as well stick with this one, right? I love AI. If people don't know this, Microsoft invested $10 billion in OpenAI. So they, OpenAI might be just considered Microsoft AI, not officially, but the whole announcement of Apple integrating OpenAI into iOS 18 that's coming out this year, as long as you have an iPhone 15 Pro or higher, it'll work. So 15 Pro, 15 Pro Max, and then 16 that comes out this year. Microsoft had a board seat. an observer board role, so they can just is a non-voting role, right? Apple was going to get that too, right? Yeah. So suddenly the FTC announced a move to look into antitrust exposure, and Microsoft is like, yeah, you know what? We don't want that board. We don't need that board seat anymore. And then Apple dropped their observer role board seat too. So it turns out there's going to be a lot more scrutiny into AI and the way that these big tech companies are buying it, but not really owning it in a way.
Okay.
But I mean, I'll tell you what, if somebody gives me $10 billion, I'm pretty sure they own me.
They own it. Yep, absolutely. And Apple's calling AI Apple Intelligence.
Yeah, because Apple's long-term goal is to have their own AI, but because they're not there yet, this is like their hybrid. This is a really weird move for Apple. I don't like, if you really look into it, typically Apple likes to do everything in-house, but the way they're going to proxy this is they're going to hide your identity. So anything that's sent to OpenAI, you have to authorize, and then they're going to scramble like your identities for the security aspect of it and the privacy aspect of it. So it's interesting. But this just gives them more time to develop their large language models or small language models, whatever you want to call it. Small language model would be something that could run on a phone that can do a finite number of things. And the large language model, just you have to go to the cloud to get it because you just don't have enough power, storage, memory, everything on your device to do it.
Cool.
But yeah, no, it's really interesting. So it's really going to be, I think people are finally figuring out though that this AI craze that has drove the stock market up a little bit, a lot of people aren't using AI yet. There's all these tools out there that say AI, but if you look at the true numbers to these companies, they're not adding a ton of revenue. So it's going to be, it's interesting. I mean, I use it all the time, but I mean, we're kind of like I guess we're kind of in like a niche, like a small niche of people. So.
Yeah, people are afraid of it. Some people are blindly putting stuff into it, and that's a whole other topic of how much data is being out there and who ultimately owns it and where it is. But for now, people are playing with it. They're getting some stuff, and it's going to grow. But is it going to take over the world? We'll have to wait and see.
It's not going to take over the world. It's just making people better. When general intelligence comes around, then we can worry. That's a bit of a ways off. But to Microsoft's point, I've been testing Microsoft Copilot 365 Copilot for a while, so that adds AI capabilities to like the Office suite, Teams, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It has got remarkably better over the last 3 months.
Everybody's training it.
Well, kind of that, and then Microsoft just improving on the back end, right? And then they probably, I don't know if they moved up to GPT 4.0 yet, but it'll be really interesting to see just like the advancements in there. Obviously, we're leveraging more and more AI for cybersecurity, and we're going to see where that goes too. But
cool.
This is a good one. We'll get everybody back together. We'll some of the stuff that we tried to do before we'll catch up on. I don't want to exclude too many people.
Yep. All right, sir. Well, let's have a safe week. And,
yeah,
it was an uneventful weekend for the 4th of July, thank God. And from a cyber perspective, for the most part.
You just screwed us all. Thank you for that.
As soon as I say it. Later, guys.
We'll talk to you next week. Have a good week.